world of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. It's the David Knight Show.
As the clock strikes 13, it's Wednesday, the 20th of May, year of our Lord 2026. Well, yesterday, it was a corruption eruption. I mean, I'm just staggered, quite frankly. Even as someone who has followed this closely most of my life, I cannot believe the amount of corruption in the Trump administration. There was an excellent op-ed piece by Mona Charen, who used to be a speechwriter for Ronald Reagan. Used to have ads on Rush Limbaugh for her, and she's talking about how unbelievably corrupt the Trump administration is. I mean, this slush fund of $1.776 billion, and we're going to talk about how that is set up, who administers it, and the deal that was put in quietly saying the Trump family will not be audited by the IRS forever. How about that? And then, of course, the Massey election itself. Incredible display of corruption. As I've said before, when you look at the amount of money being spent on these elections, it is a metric of corruption. But there are others. We'll be right back. Yes, the MAGA people are bragging about Trump winning. I saw this morning. Laura Loomer's boasting about stuff as well. But this is Laura Ingraham. And she said, well, the truth is Trump is just better at politics than everybody else. And it's like, you want to call this politics? It's criminal corruption is what it is. He's a traitor to this country. And I said that. I said, you are nothing but a suck-up sycophant. You know better than this. It's about the money. It really is about the money. And if the government is for sale, and it is, what does that tell us about this government? And he has got his fingers in the till, and he is filling his pockets as fast as he can. It is a disgusting thing to look at. I'm disgusted with this country. And I think anybody who looks at it carefully and objectively is. So we had a validation yesterday of my definition of MAGA. A majority of asinine, gullible Americans voted against Thomas Massey, who's had integrity. We don't want somebody with integrity in Congress, right? And when you look at this, I even have questions about that. We look at everything that Biden did, everything that Obama did that we rightfully criticize them for. And what Trump has done is to make it his own and to put it on steroids to make it far worse. Take a look at the election, for example. The vote totals for Thomas Massey went up like 19%, but I think the overall number of people who voted went up 356% from the last primary they had. Now, do you think that's real? I'll be honest, I don't think it's real. And I said before, part of the game that they're playing with this massive dump in the last week of several $1 million, as well as, look, he's doing threesomes with these Democrat women, and he's got a girlfriend that he tried to pay off because she didn't want to settle a lawsuit with a different congressional office and all this other kind. It's just absolute nonsense, especially when you look at the timeline of what she claims happens. None of that made any sense. But when you look at all this stuff and you look at the polls, let me ask you a question, okay? You know that the Democrats and the Republicans rig ballot access. No question about it. They're rigging gerrymandering. They pick the voters. Okay, but now we're supposed to believe the polls are true? The opinion polls before the election? We're supposed to believe that the election polls are true? Were you born yesterday if you think that's true? Unbelievable. Folks, we have such an unbelievably corrupt government. I don't believe those election results for a moment. And when you look at that, Massey's vote, of course, it's going to be a contested election. His go up by 19%. But we're supposed to believe that all these boomers who get all their news from Fox never bothered to show up before, and then they show up yesterday? Really? Okay, sure. Yeah, if you say so. Unbelievable. I just don't believe it. So it's the same kind of stuff we saw with Biden and others. And of course, the Republicans play that game as well. They play the game of bringing in Smartmatic and voting machines. They play the game. Trump says we can't have honest elections if we're going to have vote by mail. Well, who was it that put in vote by mail? It was Donald Trump as part of his COVID pandemic fraud. It was a fraud, a lie. He was gaslighting the public. He had to go to that corrupt election for him because that was part of the gaslighting. Got to keep that narrative going so he could inject people with his bioweapon. That's it. That's it, folks. So the AP called Massey's race purportedly, it was 55-45. The seal was ahead. And as I got to say, when you talk about Ed Galerine, the seal, that's the seal he is, as far as I'm concerned. He is a trained performing SEAL, trained to perform for Israel, trained to perform for the military-industrial complex. I have absolutely no respect for somebody who has the kinds of skills that SEALs have when they do the kind of stuff that Dan Crenshaw attempted, the kind of stuff that Ed Galerine's going to. Why do we bow before these people? I mean, they're trained as killers. They're very good at that. Okay, fine. The problem is that if you take somebody who has no morality and you give them a lot of skills, whether it's killing people or whether it is running computers, they have no morality. That just makes them a lot more dangerous, doesn't it? And this guy never talked about anything except Israel and wars. Of course, those two things are always interconnected with America, aren't they? At least lately. So anyway, he got 46,000 votes, and I guess Massey's three former opponents that he beat that put together this smear of this woman at the last minute. One of them took the deposition in the law office of another one that he beat, and then it was a third guy that he beat that promoted it right away. He was the first one to promote it, so nothing to see there, I'm sure. Anyway, the most expensive primary House race on record. Just to put this in perspective, the journal figure that everybody's putting there, of course, I expect this to rise as they look more carefully, but they're saying $32 million is spent on the two of them. This is for a House race. Stop and think about that. How many people live in that district? How much did they spend per voter? It's ludicrous. It's just a metric of corruption. If you go back to Ronald Reagan's election, right? How much did Ronald Reagan spend to get elected against an incumbent president, Jimmy Carter? $58 million. That's what's happened to the corruption. That's what's happened to the purchasing power of our dollar. I mean, you don't even get a good politician for that kind of money anymore, right? The price of houses have gone up. The price of cars have gone up. The price of politicians has gone through the roof as well. It's insane. You can only laugh at this kind of stuff. Absolutely insane. Yeah, inflation. And, of course, we also have to factor in, which they didn't factor in, it wasn't reported to the FEC, all of the money with Iran-Contra and Bill Casey, who was one of the creators of this corrupt CIA, the Corruption Intelligence Agency, criminal intelligence agency, people doing assassinations and coups and all the rest of it. As Trump was saying, Thomas Massey, the horrible congressman, the worst congressman in the history of our country. Well, the question is, what is your country, Donald? Is it Israel? Perhaps Thomas Massey is the worst congressman in the history of Israel. That's the reality of what we're talking about here. As I said yesterday, Trump doesn't get credit for beating Massey. He didn't put up all the money. It was Zionist billionaires. It was AIPAC. It was all these other people. The Zionists are the ones who defeated Massey. It was never about Trump versus Massey, in spite of all the mainstream media nonsense and most of the other commentators out there. This is a revenge tour of Zog, the Zionist-occupied government, against Thomas Massey. And Zog won. Wasn't that the name of the villain that Buzz Lightyear was fighting against? Zog, wasn't it?
Zurg was his
Zurg,
name.
okay, all right.
But it's close.
We need to bring him out again. Anyway, Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth goes to campaign for him, and we're supposed to believe that all of a sudden that made all the difference in the world, right? Turned things around, to a 10-point lead when Massey had a lead throughout all of this. And also, let me just say this in terms of the fact that it was not Trump who defeated him. Remember, Trump wanted to defeat him first, and he was one of the first people that first Republicans that Trump said, we got to get him out, right? Why? Because he pushed against Trump's fraudulent pandemic relief. Fraudulent relief program for a fraudulent pandemic. And we see how rife that was with corruption. As a matter of fact, I can't remember the guy's name, but I interviewed a guy who was hired by the Trump administration to audit the votes. And he said, because that's what he did, and they had contacted him about that bailout program that Trump was doing as he threw us into a mini depression. And he said, this thing is just going to be rife with corruption the way it's set up. And they said, well, we haven't had anything happen yet because we haven't even started the program yet. This is just your proposal. And that's the absurdity that comes from the Trump people. And of course, we saw how corrupt it was. And so Thomas Massey pushed against that. He said, we can't do $3 billion universal basic income welfare program, which is what it was. It was moving the Overton window toward universal basic income. What? Let's see what happens. Let's run a test. Let's see what happens if we take jobs away from everybody. In this particular case, we'll say you can't have your job because you got to stay home because of this imaginary virus that's everywhere. And so let's take everybody's job and then see if we can pacify them with universal basic income. Well, it worked like a charm, didn't it? Everybody loved their STEMI check. And boom, just like that, they realized that when they take everything from us with whatever manufactured crisis they're going to do, they'll be able to pacify the vast majority of Americans. They got exactly what they wanted out of it. Well, Thomas Massey didn't like it because of the budget-busting spending that was happening. And so he opposed it. And furthermore, he made all of the members of Congress come back to vote on it in person, which they really hated because, some of them may have actually believed the hype about the pandemic. They thought they're going to die, right? He knew better, and he did a great job, a great service showing people that they weren't going to die. I remember when this stuff really began, like back in March or something of 2020, they had C-SPAN. And they, not C-SPAN, it was, what was it? CPAC, sorry. I get one boring thing confused with another boring thing. So they had CPAC, all the conservatives there, and all these conservative politicians show up to speak to people because it's an election year, 2020. And then they say, oh, we had some people who were there. They tested positive with a Fauci PCR test. And all the left was like, yay, all these conservatives are going to die. Nobody got sick. I mean, you got people in the kind of health condition that these aged senators like Mitch McConnell are in. None of them got sick. None of them died. It was nothing at all. But they were going around getting their PCR tests and thinking if they got a positive, oh, see, I've got COVID. And look, I survived it. That's what we hear from some of them. But Thomas Massey made them come back in and vote. Because of that, Trump put him on blast. We're going to primary him out. Trump was not able to primary him out in 2020. Trump wasn't able to get rid of him in 2022. Wasn't able to get rid of him in 2024. There wasn't the Zionists who got involved in this, folks. And I'm telling you, it was his opposition to their war. It was his opposition to their owning Congress. That was what made it necessary for them to get rid of him by hook or by crook. And as Jonathan Pollard said when he was talking about using nuclear weapons against other countries in the Middle East, he said we have to make sure they understand that there is nothing that we won't do. If they understand that there's any limit to what we do, we've lost. Well, I think you've done a pretty good job of showing people there's no limits to how low Israel will go. Yes.
The video of him saying that is in the deck.
Yes, I know. I've got it. I'm not going to play it just yet. I want to get some of this other stuff out of the way. So anyway, he said, you can tell them ahead the polls, and they're desperate. That's why they're sending the Secretary of War to my district. That's why the president's losing sleep and tweeting about this. It's why AIPAC has dumped another $3 million into the race over the last weekend. They already had a record amount. And so, as I pointed out, in the last week, they bumped it up by another 50%. Again, when you look at the public opinion polls that they took, they're supposed to believe that all of a sudden everything got turned around because of Hegseth visiting, I guess. I just don't buy it. And I especially don't buy it when you look at the voter turnout numbers that are there. I think there's some stuffing going on it. And I don't think it's just money into the pockets of politicians. Yes.
DG8 is pointing out there was 40 people at the Hegseth speech in Kentucky.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, where have we seen that before? You see these politicians and nobody shows. And let me tell you something. I have gone to rally after rally as a reporter. And I've also gone to rallies as a candidate and somebody involved in a third party. You don't get typically more than 40 people turning up at a rally. When you get somebody, you get the kind of crowds that Trump gets, the kind of crowds that Massey got. That's a very different thing. It's unbelievably different to see that. And so, 40 people at an Ed Galerine thing. And even when I played the clip yesterday of where he had these people screening him from a veteran, from a person who had the honorary title of Kentucky Colonel who wanted to ask Ed some questions. He's got people who are standing there, in suits with their arms folded, and they keep moving in front of the guy. And as Ed moves, 3 of them get in front of him. And he wasn't going to push his way through, but somebody filmed it and showed how they screened him out. Ed does not want to answer questions. There's a good reason for that, because seals don't talk. Seals applaud, and they bark for their masters on cue. You just throw them some fish, and you're good. Trump hates Massey because the principled Kentuckian voted against budget-busting Big Beautiful Bill. Massey also pushed for the release of the Epstein files. And again, this is New American, but it began in 2020 when he was exposing the waste and the fraud of the COVID pandemic lies. And so when you look at Massey, Trump says he is disloyal. Disloyal. I guess, you can throw, you don't want to throw stones in a glass house, but you can throw stones if you're in the White House, I guess. The adulterer in chief calls somebody else disloyal. And I thought that was the most amazing thing. He attacks Thomas Massey for getting married after a year and a half after his wife died. It's like, what's the matter with this guy? Why did he wait until after his wife of 35 years died? That's not the way Trump does it, is it? And so now there are tertiary effects that are going to take place. Trump and his rants and his boasting, talking about Rand Paul and Boebert. They will, these are the thrashings of the wounded narcissist out there and his ego politics. The fury continued at 8:12 a.m. as they go through a timeline of all of Trump's furious tweets. He voted against almost everything that is good. That is me, right? Trump. And then at 10:47 a.m., Trump called Massey an obstructionist and a fool. Yeah, the Ed and Trump supporters don't get their news from Twitter. They get it from faux news, F-A-U-X. People like Laura Ingraham. Massey did vote against the Big Beautiful Bill, but not because it included tax cuts and funding for a border wall. No, because it would increase the national debt. Trump is a Democrat. He never talks about spending cuts. He may talk about tax cuts for some groups. He tells you that other people are going to pay the taxes, right? You won't pay the tariffs. It'll be corporations in other countries even that'll pay the tariffs. No, we got a lot of businesses, small businesses that are going out of business because of Trump's tariff tantrums. And he also tells you that taxes are your path to prosperity. Taxes will be paid by other people, and taxes will make you rich. This is standard Democrat fare, always has been. That's why I say Trump, more than anything, is a New York City Democrat. And he has prostituted himself to Israel and to the technocrat billionaires of Silicon Valley. Although there were some conservative wins in the budget reconciliation, says the New American. I'm sorry, not New American. This is Massey saying, voted against it because the bill would increase the national debt. Although there were some conservative wins in the budget reconciliation, I voted no on the final passage because it will still significantly increase U.S. budget deficits in the near term. It will negatively impact all Americans through sustained inflation and high interest rates. Trump doesn't care about any of that. You know, he made the amazing statement a week ago. I don't really care about Americans' finances. And then yesterday he comes in and he says, yeah, you know, all that stuff that's happening with fuel and the embargo that I put on oil through my idiotic war and the results of that locking down the Strait of Hormuz, that's all peanuts. I don't care about that. He just doesn't care about it. I'm sure he doesn't care about, he doesn't fill up his limousines at the gas pump. He never has. And he's always got either a chauffeur to do it, and he's got the Secret Service to do it. He's always had big limousines, always had private airliners, not just a private jet. He has an entire, you know, like something you'd have 100, 200 people fly on. That's what he does. And now he's got the Beast that taxpayers pay for. It doesn't get a certain number of miles per gallon. It gets gallons per mile. It's more like an Abram tank. And that's basically what it is, because the presidents of this country are so despised by everyone in the world, including Americans. They have to travel around in a tank with a small army to protect them because of the ill will that they create everywhere. So these guys, just like Trump, Ed Galerine has been told, don't debate. They know these guys can't handle a debate. They just give them some talking points, let them regurgitate those talking points. If they were actually to get into a debate, you would see just how empty they are. And they don't even understand what they're doing. As a matter of fact, you see that with Trump all the time. Yeah, as many people point out, you know, the problem with lying is you don't have a good enough memory. Well, Trump's memory is at the point where he can't lie without contradicting himself in the same sentence. But if these guys were to get in and to start debating on some of these issues, you know, like whether or not the big, beautiful bill was a good deal for the American taxpayer and for the American country, you would see just how shallow his understanding is. You'd see how shallow Trump's understanding is. So these guys who are put up as placeholders, as avatars for the billionaires who own them, they're told not to debate. Trump didn't want to have any debates. Biden didn't want to have any debates. Ed Galerine doesn't want to have any debates. And this is one of the reasons why MAGA is constantly surprised. Well, wait a minute. I thought Trump stood for this, and look, he's doing exactly the opposite. Yeah, it's because
Fox News will do a much better job of selling you as a candidate than you can.
That's right.
Through your lies on the podium.
That's right. You can get Laura Ingraham to sell this stuff and all the rest of the people on Fox News. As the Courier-Journal of Louisville reported, Galerine left the GOP after Trump was elected in 2016 to become an independent. Then he returned to the party in 2020 after Biden was inaugurated. Well, I would say after he was selected, right? And so, you know, you look at that election that they're so upset about. That was as fair as any of these elections. They're all corrupt. None of them are honest. Marjorie Taylor Greene said there were only 4 of us Republicans that signed the discharge petition to force the vote to release the Epstein files. Trump has come after us one by one ever since. If that isn't a confession of guilt, it's as close as you will ever get from Donald Trump to confessing to what we all saw, that he was Epstein's best friend and party pal for over a decade. The president told Speaker Johnson not to allow the vote to happen, and he did his best. Remember, they take pretty much the entire month of August off every time anyway. And Johnson shut it down early to keep there from being a vote. And then he refused to open up and said, well, it's because we got to shut down. Well, that's never stopped them before. That doesn't have anything to do with their pay. They've always met, even if there was a shutdown. He didn't want to seat the Democrat who had gotten elected in a special election because that was one more vote to release the Epstein file. So Mike Johnson, at the behest of Trump, humiliated himself. I mean, you could tell this guy, go stand in the corner and pee in your pants in front of everybody, and Mike Johnson would do it. You do it out of fear, quite frankly. It was only when all members of Congress had to vote on the record, only then did Republicans finally find their intestinal fortitude to do the right thing and vote yes to release the files. Until then, they were absurdly obedient to the president, who was doing everything in his reign of terror, said Marjorie Taylor Greene, to hold them back. Yeah, it was absurd. It was futile, what Mike Johnson and Donald Trump did. And if ever there was a confession of guilt, that is the closest you'll ever get from Trump, his actual actions. And so some think that Massey, says the New American, became a top priority target for defeat by the Israel lobby last year when he told a podcaster, and that would be Tucker Carlson, that every GOP congressman has a babysitter from AIPAC. And that the lobby expects congressmen to write pro-Israel propaganda. I disagree with that. I think it was his principled opposition to the Iran war. Everybody already knew that all these congressmen have a babysitter. That wasn't anything new. But this war is what they want. Well, let's not forget that Israel, and especially Mossad, had a connection to Epstein and to Ghislaine Maxwell. It's a question of whether or not Trump will pardon her. It's not a question of whether or not he'll do it, but when he'll do it, okay? He pardoned Jonathan Pollard, the worst traitor and spy. Well, actually, he didn't pardon him. They paroled him, let him go back to Israel. But still, the fact that he didn't have a problem with that because Miriam Adelson flew him back on her private plane, and Netanyahu is waiting at the foot of the steps to greet him. And Jonathan Pollard gets down on the ground and kisses the ground there in Israel. And so does Miriam Adelson right next to him. I mean, look at that. Yeah, he did it for Bibi. He did it for Miriam. Trump did. And when you look at this war issue, I really think that is the issue. It's amazing, really, when you stop and think about how much alike Netanyahu and Trump are. Both of them have a long list of corruption charges brought against them by their own people and their own government. And they both want war now. I mean, they have become mirror images of each other. Here's what Thomas Massey had to say about just before the voting yesterday.
One thing I saw on Fox, they were saying, oh my goodness, we're ready for war. We're about to restart this war. We were supposed to restart this war today, but we can't restart this war today. The war can't start today. They said we got to wait a day. And then it occurred to me, where was the Secretary of War yesterday? He was here. Listen. Wait. No, look on the bright side.
That's what it is, folks.
No more war.
We don't want war.
No more war.
Israel demands that we go to war for their good, not for our good.
Knock that off. You're going to make me feel good about losing. What I wanted to do was give you all credit. When they saw the influencers here, they panicked. They sent the Secretary of War here, and you stopped the war for a day. All right. We know we don't want a war, and we know why young people are, and middle-aged people are against the next war, because we'd be the ones fighting it. They're trying to bring back the draft. Screw that. We're not going to fight. We're not going to fight some other country's wars, are we? No. What else do we stand for? We don't want to send our money overseas. Okay, I'll go for that.
And the Fed. And don't just stop with the reserve.
I've got a bill to do that. I've also
end all
got a
the
bill
Fed.
to end the ed in the Department of Education. Rand Paul says he wants to pass a law that you need one day to read 10 pages of every bill. I asked Rand, what are you going to do about my bill that's one sentence long to end the Department of Education? That'd be like 5 minutes to read that bill. By the way,
Got to pass the bill to find out what's in it.
Epstein Files Transparency Act was 2 pages. We're tired of meddling overseas. We can't afford it. Our empire will collapse if we keep sending our money to other countries. I never picked a fight with the country that's tried to take me out here because I've never voted for foreign aid to any country. We got to take care of America first. America first. America first. America first. America first. America first. By the way, you remember that organization that Klaus Schwab started called the World Economic Forum? They said you should eat bugs. Do you want to eat bugs? No. They said you'll own nothing and be happy about it. You want to do that? No. Well, guess what happened? Guess what happened to Klaus's CEO? He was in the Epstein files. He had to resign. We took out the CEO of the World Economic Forum with a 2-page bill.
It's amazing, isn't it? When we look at the bills and the way they operate this stuff, the GOP, especially under Mike Johnson, has adopted all of the levers of power that Nancy Pelosi corruptly put in place. She was the first one to drop a, several thousand-page bill one day before the vote, so that nobody had any time to read it. That's what Rand Paul is reacting to. They put these bills together that are not, they're 1,000 pages long, and then they drop them on the eve of the vote to make it even worse. They want to make sure that you don't know what's in it. And of course, that was when Nancy Pelosi famously said, well, you got to pass it to find out what's in it. And of course, she knew what was in it, and she was the devil's details are going to be put in by the bureaucracy. Quite frankly, and that was really, I think, what she was talking about. But that's a strategy that has been adopted by the Republican speakers as well, just like the insider trading of Nancy Pelosi has been adopted by Donald Trump. As I pointed out yesterday, when you've got Josh Hawley saying, "Hey, we need to stop this insider trading," he writes a bill that includes the president and the vice president and his cabinet. Trump went after him with a vengeance. How dare you tell me I can't do insider trading? As I've said for the longest time, the Republicans have become the Democrats of my youth. The Democrats have become the totalitarian Marxists of my youth. That's where we are right now. As the New American finishes up, they talk about how much money, and we all know how much money AIPAC threw in. Over $15 million was thrown in by the Israeli lobby against him.
That's
that
an old
in and of
number.
itself would be an abomination. I'm sorry, what?
And that's an old number. I've seen
Yeah.
35 million quoted or 32 million.
Well, they dropped in the vast, at least a third of that was dropped in the last week of that total that's there. But I think the 30 million, I think that is a figure that is combining what the two of them did. But he didn't have anywhere close to the amount of money that Ed Galerine did. So I think probably he's going to wind up being more like 25 million once they quote that in there. And then the rest of it, like 7 million or whatever will be Massey's people. He did a massive money bomb, got $1.3 million. The next day, you got an Israeli billionaire who writes a check for the same amount. One person erases the contributions of all those other people. As New American pointed out, Trump says he votes for horrible things, like freedom in the Constitution, things like that. He has a lifetime rating of 99% of the New American's Freedom Index. He also received a 100% grade 4 different times. He has never been evaluated below 97. These are the kind of people that Trump and the Zionists and the technocrats need to purge out of Congress. So again, you look at WND, which is a Zionist pushing website, and they say, resounding victory for the president. No, it was a resounding victory for Israel. And as President Trump has pointed out, where does her loyalty lie?
She loves this country. Her and her husband are so incredible.
Israel.
Miss him so dearly. But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must say.
Yeah, she refuses to answer which country she loves more. And just like she refuses to answer, how does she get all these politicians to do what she wants? Right?
You and Sheldon created a lot of relationship over the years with politicians at the state level, especially at the federal level.
Master-slave relationship.
I want you to share with everyone why is it so important and how do you do it? Again, writing checks is part of it, but there is more than writing just checks. So how do you do it?
Can you allow me not to answer?
You choose.
I don't want to tell you. Yeah.
I want to be truthful, and there are so many things that I don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want specific, but
this is like the old thing from Bismarck saying you don't want to see how the laws are made. It's like a sausage factory.
And it's also worth noting that she gets a big hand of applause both times. Yeah. What do you love more, America or Israel? Well, she's not going to say, but I think you know what that means, and the audience goes wild. Yeah. Same thing for, money won't do everything with politicians. There's other things, but I won't tell you what those are, but I've got other methods, and then she gets a big round of applause for that as well.
We have our ways, right? Yeah, you get as much as you can with the money, and if that doesn't work, you bring in Epstein and Mossad, right? That always turns the trick, literally, I guess. But I just want to go back to Jonathan Pollard. Trump is out there calling people traitors. You don't want to talk about Jonathan Pollard? You don't want to talk about Miriam Adelson, who is your owner-donor? You don't want to talk about her and her connection with Jonathan Pollard? I think it's very interesting to listen to Jonathan Pollard talking about the use of nuclear weapons to blackmail the United States. And let me just put this into context. He begins with an event that happened in October 1973. He said Henry Kissinger, by the way, Jewish, right? But he didn't want to, in terms of what he was doing, he was trying to, not because he loved America, but because that's where his power base was. He was at least putting American interest, because that was his interest, over that of Israel. And he wasn't going to support Israel in October of 1973. So what they did was they said, fly your satellite or your surveillance equipment, planes or whatever it was at the time. Take a look at this plane that's parked over here. What do you see under the wings there? And he plays these games. He won't say that it's a nuclear weapon, but he'll do things like he'll call it a weapon of mass destruction, an unconventional weapon of mass destruction, something like the Japanese solution. I mean, we all know what Jonathan Pollard is alluding to. The people who are interviewing him know. This is the thing that just rubs the salt in the wound when these people lie to your face, when they boast about what they're doing, and then they use these code words like, you don't know what I'm talking about, do you? So again, this is October 19th. And then what happened also in October 1973? He was successful in terms of blackmailing the U.S. government to help them in their 1973 war. What happened? That same month, you had the OPEC embargo. It was just directed at the United States. It wasn't directed at anybody else, and it was directed at us because we helped Israel. So he uses nuclear blackmail to blackmail our cooperation and assistance. They do. And notice that Jonathan Pollard says we. This is 1973. He wasn't arrested as a spy until 1985. This is 12 years before he was arrested. All through that time, his loyalty is to Israel, a disloyal traitor to the country that he was born in. And so they blackmail us into that, and the response from OPEC, directed only at the United States, still had a global impact. It set off inflation in terms of energy prices and all these other issues that happen, economic hardship around the globe. And it was only about 15% of America's oil supply at the time. Now Trump, having been prodded into yet another war in the Middle East by Israel, sets off the Trump oil embargo, which would be much worse than the OPEC oil embargo, because closing Strait of Hormuz has stopped 20% of the global supply. And so this is what they've been doing to America for the longest time. Here's the clips.
Israel had such power, and rightfully, over Congress, and now it doesn't.
What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must say.
My father raised me never to Moser another Jew, never to betray another Jew. If it were in front of a kosher bed din, as my father said, that was one thing. But in front of the Goyim, no.
That's
Put
us.
Iran back into the Stone Age.
How? How would they do that? What are you suggesting?
Well, I've written quite a bit openly here about what we should do. The first thing is an electromagnetic pulse strike across Iran. If the enemy understands that there are limits past which we will not go, they've won.
So you think it's cause rationale for another Japanese response?
Japanese response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me bring you back to
That's how they use these
October
euphemisms.
1973, during the Yom Kippur War, when Henry Kissinger instituted an arms embargo against us. He stopped the aerial resupply of our army at that point to extract diplomatic concessions from us. And what happened? What happened was an A-4 Skyhawk was parked at Tel Nof Air Base with some interesting weapons under its wings. And we told the Americans, take your eye in the sky and take a good look at the airplane that's on that runway. And the next day, the airlift started. So the guy that I was talking...
Which airlift?
To Israel.
Uh-huh.
The arms air.
So in other words, we threatened
Weapons.
their...
We threatened to use unconventional weapons. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Nuclear blackmail in the United States. Give us weapons or we're going to nuke Egypt, nuke the whole Middle East there. And so they do. And so then OPEC strikes out against the United States as a result of that. Israel doesn't care at all about us. This racist ethnic state only cares about their racist people. It's just like Nazi Germany. They have become exactly what they fought. You know, we are the master race. All the rest of you are Goyim. You're subhuman. We can betray you. We can steal from you. We don't care. That's what this is all about. The rift, says WND, between Trump and Massey escalated in June 2025 when Massey argued that the Trump strikes in Iran were unconstitutional. Well, there was already a riff. Again, the riff went back to Trump's pandemic fraud. And then it escalated over what? Over Israel, over Netanyahu's obsession with Iran, saying that it was imminent for over 30 years. And of course, Trump is still saying, and Hegseth is still saying it's imminent, even though at the same time, he said it's nothing other than a PR event to go back and get the stuff. It's all under rubble, and we've been watching this, and nobody has gone close to it. Well, if nobody has gone close to it, it's under rubble. How could you say that it is an imminent threat? Which means that you are obviously in violation and knowingly in violation of not just the constitutional requirement that Congress should declare war, but even the weaker version, the War Powers Act, that says that you can go to war for 60 days if there is an imminent threat. It doesn't say that the president can go attack or kill anybody that he wants to for 60 days, and then he's got to get Congress's permission. No, there has to be an imminent threat. Well, the imminent threat was supposed to be the nuclear weapons, but Trump is saying there still isn't really any threat. We really don't need to go there. It'd just be a PR thing, but I'm willing to kill a lot of people in order to do a PR stunt. Yeah, we noticed in 2020 that you're willing to kill millions of people. And so when you look at what Israeli propaganda has gone from, after they began the genocide in Gaza, they have had to increase their propaganda spending by 100 times. Instead of around 7 million, they're now up to 730 million in terms of propaganda. Yeah, they will do whatever they need to do to keep up their agenda of war, murder, and theft of land. So in the last days before the election, they dropped these lies about Massey's ex-girlfriend. They're capable of doing anything. These are the people who ran the Epstein intelligence honey traps, blackmailing other billionaires. So Massey loses, as Reason points out, proving that deficit hawks and foreign policy doves are not welcome in Trump's GOP. That's what it has become. It is Trump's GOP. And they are guarding our pedophiles. Or we could say guarding old pedophiles. They're not my pedophiles. I have absolutely no interest in these people. It further solidifies Israel's firm hold on the Republican Party. Now, Reason says it further solidifies Trump's firm hold on the Republican Party. I think, as I said before, Trump wasn't able to get him out in 2020, 2022, 2024, but Israel dumping in tens of millions of dollars into a race, and they're willing to do that to your congressional race as well. And oh, by the way, if there's anything in your background, they probably will blackmail you over that as well. They know about all of that stuff as well. So that's how they have ways other than just money that Miriam Adelson would not like to talk about. And various ratings systems maintained by groups such as the Heritage Action and Conservative Review, and I read to you the John Birch Society's Freedom Index, where he has a lifetime average of 99, Thomas Massey did, never below a 97, and he has had a 100% rating 4 times when they have evaluated him. But this is Reason, talking about Heritage and Conservative Review, that said he has always been an exemplary congressman. Well, again, there is no need to excuse his betrayal of the Constitution, of Trump's betrayal of the Constitution, because even his own promises, he says it's like playing 5D chess. It's now being liked by Trump as the only test that matters. Galerine passed that test. He defended Trump's war in Iran as part of 5D chess, an effort to reset the entire global power structure. Let me ask you this. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Ed didn't want to go on and debate people. He doesn't seem too sharp, does he? Think about what he said here. He's playing 5D chess. What is the purpose of playing 5D chess? In order to reset the global power system. The global power system was set up with the U.S. at the top. If you're going to reset that power system, as we see that happening in Iran, and we've talked about what is happening to the U.S. power structure in the Middle East, in Europe, if that's what your concern is, if you want U.S. hegemony, if you want a U.S. empire, we already had that. Why would you reset that? And that's exactly what Trump's actions are doing. They are resetting the global power structure that has been in our favor. He's resetting that to something that is not in our favor.
In favor of Israel.
That's right. Well, it's in favor of Israel, and it's also creating essentially a multipolar world with things like BRICS and other stuff like that. So it is not what the American empire has always wanted. I guess I should be grateful about that. It's kind of the back end of all this stuff, just like everybody woke up about the vaccines with COVID. So they point out in Reason, they said, Massey held on longer than most, but his path into political retirement is well worn. It has been trodden by many Tea Party era Republicans who stuck to their principles only to discover that principles no longer matter to the contemporary GOP and their voters. With Trump's descendants, whatever energy was left in the Tea Party has now turned into pure populist rage and into tribal animus. And this is what you see all the time. It's like, well, if Thomas Massey is such a great Republican and conservative, why is he liked by Democrats? Well, he's liked by Democrats because he came after the Epstein files. He's liked by some Democrats because, again, opposing Trump, even when Trump is wrong, they just see that as fueling their tribe, right? But these people coming out, they can't look at an issue and say, is this right or wrong? Because they don't have any principles. They only have positions, and their positions are dictated by their tribal identity. That's how they run this stuff on the MAGA people. Even if Massey had won, observed Reason's Nick Gillespie, he said the GOP of which he was a part is very different from the one that he belonged to when he first arrived in Washington. Irony in the fact that Massey once wrote in the pages of Reason that libertarians ought to work within the Republican Party to achieve their political ends rather than eschew the two-party system. Well, I don't believe in third-party politics either, because that is, as Massey pointed out, is futile, because the system has been completely restructured to favor these two parties. It is a political system that is for the parties, by the parties, of the parties, and you need not apply. They don't want your vote. They don't want you participating in this whatsoever. I think that we need to go to a higher authority, the Lord Jesus Christ. That's the bottom line. Yes, what?
I was just going to say that for a three-party or anything other than a two-party system to work, you need to get rid of first-past-the-post voting and go with something like ranked choice, or there are even better systems than ranked choice, like approval voting. But first-past-the-post is always going to devolve into a two-party duopoly, which we've seen historically over and over again.
That's right. And it is Republicans understand that. That's why they have pushed so hard wherever this has been experimented on, because they realize that if you have an alternative to have multiple candidates, they're going to be out the door. The Democrats have got their crazy constituents who are the Sodom and Gomorrah crowd, and they're going to vote for them over those issues. I was just yesterday, we were behind a car, and they had bumper stickers up all about Roe v. Wade in 1973. It got my attention because they had like fallopian tubes or something as part of it, and it looked like some kind of a stylized bull or something when you're looking at it on the back of a car. But we were talking about that, and Karen says, "Can you imagine somebody loving abortion that much, they put a sticker like that on their car?" It's like, yeah, that's what the Democrat Party has become. It is really out of touch with the mainstream, but so is the Republican Party. And the Republican Party knows that it wouldn't take much to move Republican voters. The Republican voters just vote for them out of disgust of what the Democrats have done, and so they know it wouldn't take too much. So that's why they oppose all of these reforms of the first-past-the-post system. They want a duopoly. It's the only way that they can survive. He worked his way up in the House to land a coveted seat on the powerful Rules Committee until being removed last year. By who? By Mike Johnson. Again, they're going to play the power politics. You know, this is not the, I'm a bill on Capitol Hill. That Schoolhouse Rock thing is long gone. These people in Congress, they had to fight, and part of these leadership fights as to who was going to be the speaker. And of course, they had a temporary victory, but then they lost that as well once they got Johnson in. Part of it was to say that we can introduce bills from the floor, that we can have debates, we can have a say at the floor. If you're in today's Congress, under the rules of Pelosi and Mike Johnson, you have no say. You can't even get your vote, a vote on your bill if you write one, really, in most cases. He helped to lead an effort to block Trump's tariffs when they were ruled unlawful in the Supreme Court, that were later ruled unlawful in the Supreme Court. Throughout all that, Massey is committed to the principles of limited government, but he also put a huge target on his back. And again, they don't want to really mention what's going on with Israel, because if you talk about the interest of Israel and you say, yeah, they got angry with him because he didn't support the attacks in June of 2025. They got angry with him because he doesn't support the war and all the rest of this stuff. If you talk about that, oh, well, you are anti-Semitic. They don't want that. They have been intimidated to not talk about that. Despite the fact that Massey's positions on war, on spending, on the Epstein files are more in line with Trump's campaign promises than they are in line with Trump's actions in office. Again, Trump makes these promises to the majority asinine, gullible Americans, MAGA. And even after President Trump does exactly the opposite of what candidate Trump said he wanted to do, exactly the opposite of what the MAGA people want to see, they still don't do anything about it. Well, there is a move back. You know, he was very happy about the fact. I think in the case of Cassidy, it really was Trump's revenge. Senator Cassidy in Louisiana, that happened over the weekend. I think the Massey thing is Israel, but I think the Cassidy thing was Trump taking revenge on him because he voted to impeach Trump when he was president the first term. Well, Cassidy is getting a little bit of a revenge right now. The Senate has advanced a measure to end military action in Iran as a rebuke to Trump. And it happened because Cassidy switched sides. Yeah, he may have lost the election for re-election, but he is still a senator until next year. The Senate on Tuesday advanced a resolution to halt military action in Iran after a surprise defection, says CNBC. How much of a surprise is that, really? From Republicans, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, dealing a blow to Trump's war effort. The Senate now could have the votes to force Trump to pull back the military from Iran or to seek congressional approval for additional action. But despite the war powers resolution advancing 50 to 47, it still has little chance of becoming law. It would need to pass a final vote in the Senate, then clear the House, and then Trump would almost be certain to veto it. But the vote does show increasing headwinds to the war with Iran, and also headwinds for Zog. When we look at this is one of the reasons why it's so important to pay attention to the Constitution rather than just to this War Powers Act. Because the War Powers Act is just a law. It is not, when a law violates the Constitution, it is not a legitimate law. And that law does violate the Constitution. The Constitution clearly says that it'll be Congress that will debate and declare war. It was something that was put in as a response to an emergency action because, again, you had all these presidents doing what Trump now does for everything, saying, well, I had to start this war because it was an emergency. There was an imminent threat, so we had to do something about it. And then I just got stuck there. You know, that's the problem with all this stuff. Well, the reality is that if you're going to skip the Constitution because you declare an emergency, guess who gets to declare the emergency? The president does. And he has done that over and over again, falsely declaring that emergency. So he has said that the War Powers Act is unconstitutional. And he's actually right, because it eased up the requirements for going to war. There's actually stricter requirements in the Constitution that it sloughed over. So we're going to take a quick break. And do we have, has Gerald joined us yet?
He has not joined yet. We have quite a lot of comments.
Yeah, let's take the comments before we take a break. Stealth Patriot, thank you for the tip. He says, you can forget any hope for real transparency of the Epstein files for sure now. The Israel lobby buys another seat. At least they will get all the wars they want with American money and blood. Yeah, I never had any hope for any Epstein transparency. We don't need to know anything more than we already know. Trump has basically confessed with his actions in terms of fighting all this stuff. And it's interesting to see people like Dan Bongino really angry with Thomas Massey, because the whole Epstein thing outed Bongino as a hypocrite fraud. Marky Mark, New Jersey, thank you for the tip. He said the $32 million wasn't even for the real election, which will be in November. It was for a primary. Yeah. But again, because of gerrymandering, they set these districts up for the benefit of the political party. So the Republican Party owns that district. Okay, we're back, I think. We had OBS crash on us. I don't know. We need to look into something if we could even pay for something. OBS is free. It works pretty well, but we've had a lot of issues with it lately. I don't know what is happening. Maybe it's some of the hardware that we added doesn't play well with it. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue on with the comments. I don't know where it got cut off, but we'll continue on with this. DG8, thank you for the tip. He says, David, you ever seen the movie Idiocracy? Yeah, I'm afraid so. But this is exactly what the government that we've got. And to make it worse, a UFC event on the White House lawn in June. Again, we're taking it down to the lowest common denominator of intelligence. That is where we are with the Trump White House. But again, everything that the Trump White House does is really about like a WWE wrestling event, isn't it? So he said people are struggling. Trump says, let them eat cake. Well, actually, what he said was let them eat peanuts, right? Good grief. So Fuzzy Mateo says, if Russia intervenes in our selections, it's a problem. But if it's Israel, it's okay. And, Laura Loomer, who is not Jewish, but she wants to be Jewish, at least that's what I hear. I don't know. Genealogy doesn't really matter to me. It matters to the Jews, doesn't it? They're the ones who are racist. They're the ones who are calling everybody else racist, but I don't really care if she's Jewish or not. But she is a hardcore Zionist, and she is now saying, well, Russia interfered in that Massey election. Really? Well, what about Israel? That's not an issue. And it's not an issue that they don't have to register as foreign agents at AIPAC. That's not an issue either. Audi, Modern Retro Radio. Good to see Audi. He says, I have a problem believing that Kentucky voters rejected the guy who got the Epstein files released. The pedo-in-chief's AIPAC puppet was installed. Yeah. Again, when we look at that, there's already some good evidence. As I said at the beginning of the program, the fact that Massey's vote totals went up like 19%. We expected there to be an increase in the voter turnout, but overall they were up by 356%. How does that happen? In a primary, even with all this attention, I just don't buy that. I think there's some padding going on. DG8 says, thank you for the tip. He says, David, Ohio Congressman Warren Davidson was boots on the ground in Kentucky for Massey. I'm sure he'll be in Trump's crosshairs as well. I'll be definitely voting for Davidson this term again. Good, yes. He said, David, it was proven yesterday that elected congressmen no longer go to D.C. for their constituents. No, you got to be there with the president for the party, and to hell with the common folk. That's right. And all that matters is that you serve the interests of war. War is the lifeblood of the state, always has been, always will be. Soylent Goy says, AIPAC sent a message. Oppose Israel and lose your seat in Congress. Yeah, it was AIPAC versus Massey, far more than it was Trump. Again, Trump had opposed him for a very long time over a number of issues and not able to get him out. Owen 61, thank you very much for the tip. Appreciate that. And there's Gard Goldsmith. Good to see you, Gard. Liberty Conspiracy says, exactly, David. The aged voters who haven't participated in years suddenly emerged from their cages. Their caves, I'm sorry, not cages, but from their caves. That's right. Bronx Stomper 111 says, Galerine barely won his home county. I know several people who live there, and they are not fans. All the farmers around there know Ed. He hasn't worked on the farm in years, and it upsets them that he's claiming to be a quote-unquote farmer to the uneducated city people. 30 years in the Navy, Ed is an order follower. He's a hired killer, folks. If you've got this massive, impressive resume that you can't show people, it probably means that you were going out assassinating people, starting coups on orders from the government. I have no use for people like that. I don't care how skilled they are with a weapon. That makes them only more dangerous if they have no morality, if they'll just take orders and do anything. And again, if it's something that's not criminal, why don't you tell people about it? This is the fallacy of the national security state. They have to classify everything to protect themselves. And we have seen this started out with the CIA declaring national security so they could protect themselves when they did coups and assassinations. And then we've seen this corruption trickle down, and the rotting fish rotting from the head down. It has gone down to the lowest levels of government. I'm sorry, I can't talk to you about this. You're not allowed to know anything about this. I see this all the time when I would engage people in person as a reporter. I can't talk to you about that, and they would say they had, privileges and government privileges. Well, they couldn't say that it was national security because these weren't things that were national security. But that's the attitude of everybody in government. I can't talk to you about it. Why not? Because I know and you know that what you're doing is illegal, it's criminal, and that's why you don't want to talk about it, but you invoke privilege to keep it quiet. The front porch media says smoking gun for election fraud is when the winner won't debate. That's right. DG8, not only did Trump pardon Pollard, Mike Huckabee met with him just recently. That's right. And the guy who brokered the deal between them was Mark Levin's son-in-law, I think, or son-in-law, who brought them together. And it's kind of interesting when you see Jonathan Pollard say, well, we need to do everything. We need to just completely destroy Iran, calling basically what Trump repeated, saying, I can wipe out their civilization. I can do it in no time at all. That's exactly what Jonathan Pollard is calling for. He wants to use nuclear weapons. He wants to play all these games and say, well, it was an unconventional weapon of mass destruction I'm talking about. The Japanese option, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Well, we know what he's talking about. And we know that Jonathan Pollard was selling this. And then that was picked up and repeated and echoed over and over again by Mark Levin, by Ben Shapiro. And then Trump started talking about it. Trump is not just a guy who is on the side of the worst traitor, arguably, that America has ever had. But he actually gets his talking points from the worst traitor America has ever had. Southern Citizen says Trump, with the lowest approval rating in history, is supposed to have influence on endorsements. I call BS. That's another good point. Yeah, this is, I missed one that you just scrolled up on there, I think. Yeah, there we go. Narrow Way, Narrow Gate Ministries. The question is, who will become the next target of Trump now that Massey is gone? Who will be the next designated pain in the rear to Trump? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's all about Trump. DG8, Massey should run as an independent for that seat. That's the worst that can happen. What's the worst that can happen? Both he and Galerine lose. I agree with that. That'd be a great move, except I don't think he wants to lose twice. I think he's thinking about running for president in 2028. You've had people like Jack Dorsey push that. He was hinting at it as in the speech last night. He said, well, what should we do about 2028? And kind of smiling and laughing, inviting the crowd to cheer him on to run for president, and they did. So I don't think that he wants to do yet another race for that. Again, it'd be another expensive race. And on a national level, I think he could compete, but we'd have to wait and see. Gard Goldsmith says Trump literally had his friend Sheldon fly Pollard to Israel on Sheldon's private jet. Yeah, that's exactly it. You see Miriam Adelson was there going down the walkway with him, and the two of them kissed the ground right at the feet of Netanyahu. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Pezzo Avante, 1776. How does anyone collect, quote, nuclear dust under the rubble? These war lies are laughable, and gullible Moggins will swallow it all. Absolutely right. Yeah, the nuclear dust. Isn't that funny? So but, that's the talking point they have out there. And so, we have reduced their nuclear program to dust, but we still had to attack them because it was an imminent threat. What were they going to do with that nuclear dust? Going to throw it at us or something? DG8. David, imagine a household over $1 million in debt, the house in ruins, starving kids, giving money to people 10 miles down the road who live in a mansion. That's what foreign aid in America amounts to. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and most of the foreign aid that we give in other countries, if it's not Israel using it for war, using it to kill people and reduce their houses to rubble, in most cases that foreign aid goes to the corrupt leadership of these countries. Pezzo Avante 1776 says, Galerine sounds like an intestinal disease, the Galerine syndrome. Yeah. It does, doesn't it?
I like someone's comment that he has this sort of soulless, dead-eyed stare that you typically only see from prosperity gospel mega preachers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he does.
He does have that look.
That's right. Narrowway Narrowgate Ministries. Trump could pull back the military today. That will not stop the economic hardship that is coming. That's right. They have stored up a lot of economic wrath. It's going to take a long time to unwind this. He has thrown all kinds of monkey wrenches in the supply chain, as well as, unlike the OPEC embargo, there's been a lot of production damage that has been done as part of this war. He said the intentional war that he was blackmailed to fight has grave consequences. And I lost the rest of that. There he is. Is that it there? Where are we? Yeah, that will soon be upon all of us. You're absolutely right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. Gerald Slinty is going to be joining us. I guess he's not joined yet, or has he?
He's getting there.
Okay. All right. We're going to take a quick break, folks, and we will be right back. Stay with us, and we'll talk to Gerald Slinty. He, I'm sure, is not happy about what we see. And the cover of Trends Journal talks about Trump's comment last week when he said, I don't care about Americans' finances. Now he has doubled and tripled down. He's repeated that multiple times, even talking about how I don't care about the gas prices. It's simply peanuts, he says, right? All you little people, you don't matter at all. The arrogance, and I can't do it like Gerald Slinty, so stay tuned. He's going to give us the arrogance of these white shoe boys. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The David Knight Show.
If you like the Eagles,
on a dark desert highway,
the Cars, and Huey Lewis and the News,
they say the heart of rock and roll is still beating.
you'll love the Classic Hits channel at APS Radio. Download our app or listen now at apsradio.com.
All right, joining us now is Gerald Slinty of Trends Journal. You can find it at trendsjournal.com, and you can save 10% off with the code NIGHT. And as we showed before the break, this is Gerald's cover right now for Trends Journal. Trump going full Marie Antoinette. Basically let them eat cake. No, he wants you to eat peanuts, actually. He doesn't think the massive inflation that he has ignited is anything to worry about. He certainly isn't worried about it. I mean, he has inflated his fortune with the double dealing and the open in-your-face corruption, so much so in just the last few months. He doesn't care at all about the price of gas, does he, Gerald?
Well, he cares about himself
and
his family.
That's right.
I mean, all the facts are there. It's, we have these are some of the headlines. Trump's deal with his administration also ends his tax audits.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
That's Wall Street Journal.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. It's one thing after another.
It's beyond Biden, right? This is like when Biden's pardoned his son, for 15 years, everything that he did, and some other people as well. Trump is going to pardon his family for all their tax fraud now and into the future. The word used by the now acting attorney general, who was Trump's personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, is to say, forever. The IRS is banned from coming after them and auditing them. And this is happening, Gerald, as Trump is pedal to the metal on setting up Palantir and all these other AI companies to audit his enemies and each and every one of us into the finest detail. We saw this as he weaponized AI and the auditing capabilities of that. He got Pulte to go back and look at all the real estate transactions of his political enemies, the attorney general there in Letitia James, and also Lisa Cook of the Federal Reserve. Go back and look at all their real estate dealings and said, 10, 15 years ago, you did a loan and you said it was going to be for your own personal use. And you didn't live in that house. So we're going to come after you for a crime. This is the type of way that AI is going to be used to go after his enemies, to go after each and every one of us, to look at everything we did in our life. As I said many times, Harvey Silverglate, who went on to found FIRE, Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, and he wrote the book 3 Felonies a Day. He said the federal government has put out so many laws that on average he believed that Americans were committing 3 felonies a day and didn't even know it because the law was so complex. So now they've got AI to go back and to match you up with all that stuff if you're an enemy of Trump.
I mean, an enemy of Trump, you were talking about Massey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this guy, I met him. I did a talk for Ron Paul. And I'm going back like 4 years ago. And this guy's terrific, And I kept following him. I have to say, there was nobody in Congress that I respect more than Massey.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody.
I agree.
And how much did they spend to knock him out?
It's an absurd amount, isn't it?
It's like $32 million.
Yeah, when you look at the amount of money that's being spent on these elections, it is a metric of the corruption that our government has become, because people know that they can buy whatever they want if they get whatever they want if they buy a political office. There is no return on investment like owning a politician, is there?
Again, look at the money and where the money come from. A lot of it from pro-Israel.
That's right. Yeah. That's why I said this is not a contest between Trump and Massey. Trump wanted to get him out in 2020, and he couldn't. And he was wanting to get him out ever since then. But it's only after Massey started seriously opposing the war and started exposing Epstein, it's only then that Israel came after him.
Yep.
And they're the ones who came up with the tens of millions of dollars. Let's take a look at this corruption. I hadn't talked about this yet. And I think it's interesting to get a context for this, because what's the basis of this massive lawsuit? Trump sues his own government for $10 billion, right? And the basis for this was, you leaked personal information about me, my tax returns and other things like that. And that's the basis for this. But there were a lot of people that had their tax returns leaked. As a matter of fact, they were targeted not because of politics, but they were targeted by this guy who was a contractor to the IRS. He wasn't an IRS employee. His name is Charles Littlejohn. And just to remind people, he stole these tax records and then released them. He did it for thousands of wealthy Americans to show that people are not paying taxes. And the names on the list are people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Michael Bloomberg, Bill Gates, George Soros, Carl Icahn, Rupert Murdoch, Mark Zuckerberg, Ken Griffin. Now, he revealed things like George Soros paid no taxes in 3 years. Warren Buffett, very low effective tax rate, 0.1%. You had Elon Musk paid no taxes in 2018. Jeff Bezos paid no income tax in 2007, 2011. And so he was doing this to show how the rich are not paying any taxes. That was his political agenda. It wasn't focused clearly on one political party or the other. I mean, he's got Bloomberg, he's got Soros, he's got Trump. Trump is just one of many of them. But it was Trump who came up with a $10 billion lawsuit, totally out of any proportion to any possible damage that could have been done to him. And with that $10 billion lawsuit, he then settles using his employee, Todd Blanche, who's been his personal lawyer, now his attorney general. He says, okay, I tell you what, we'll settle for about $2 billion. How about that? And it's an outrage. And what's even worse about this, Gerald, is he set up this slush fund where they're going to have a committee of people, a committee that will be answerable to Donald Trump. I mean, it looks just like the Board of Peace, so-called. And they get to pick the people on it. They are going to not be held accountable, have to report to anybody other than him, and he can remove them for anything that he wants. And they'll be deciding who gets the money out of this nearly $2 billion fund. Isn't that amazing?
Again, there's an article in this week's Trends Journal that Judge Andrew Napolitano wrote about, just what you're talking about, and how this guy that released it, by the way, they put him in jail for 4 years for doing that.
Wow, yeah.
And again, as there used to be this Italian guy, so you can't call me an anti-Italian because I didn't like Mussolini. Oh, but if you hate genocide, you're an anti-Semite. You know, yeah, got it? Anyway. The merger of state and corporate powers is fascism.
Yep, that's right.
His definition, right in front of everybody's eyes.
That's right.
This BS deal. And you're the clown boy that you mentioned, that's the IRS head over there, that used to be Trump's lawyer. And now he's making this decision?
Yeah. He's at the DOJ. He's the attorney general, and he's the one who wrote this one-page thing giving them immunity from any IRS audits. It's run by his former lawyer. It's just amazing.
Todd Blanche.
Yeah.
In the document signed by acting attorney general Todd Blanche, the government said it is in quotes, capital letters, forever barred, all caps, and all caps, precluded, all caps, in quotes, from purchasing certain claims against Trump, his business, and family members.
Wow. Yeah.
The agreement specifically blocks the government from taking any action regarding tax returns that have already been filed. Hey, but every one of you plantation workers of slave land here, you pay your taxes.
That's right.
Again, these little arrogant pieces of scum, these billionaires that give nothing for peace, nothing to we the people, pay no taxes at all. But you don't pay. Oh, my God. Do they come after you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. As Lance says, it's good to be the king, right?
Yeah.
Go back to Mel Brooks. It really is. I mean, he's feeling it right now. And I think what Blanche did was kind of a preview for what he's going to do for Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't think it's a matter of if she's going to get a pardon. It's just when she's going to get a pardon. And he was the guy who did this long, extensive interview with her in prison And the result of that was she got sent to a club fed where she had all kinds of privileges, very easy time that she was doing.
Yep.
And so, he's the guy, he's the fixer. He's the guy who's taken, what was his name? The lawyer Cohen, was it Cohen or something who turned on Trump? But it's going to be that type of thing. He always has a lawyer who goes around and does the payoff and does the dirty work for this stuff. As Mona Charen, who was a former speechwriter for Reagan, said, how corrupt is Trump? Well, here's the numbers. He is the swampiest swamp creature ever.
Yep.
She nailed it. I thought it was funny. She said, I don't like to write about the same thing twice in a row, but the latest revelation of Trump's wanton, shameless profiteering from the White House cannot go unremarked. She said, this is the Trump era, which means that if you blink, you'll miss another shattering example of unabashed corruption. And so that's how she starts her op-ed piece.
How about the numbers coming out that people shorting the oil futures?
Mm-hmm.
Before he makes a comment that, we got to cease fire now. And we'll give you 48 hours. You got 48 hours, all right? I'm giving you 48 hours. You don't do I give you 48 hours, you're going to bomb me in the room, all right? Oh, he did that on a weekend.
Yeah.
Minutes before the equity markets opened up. Hey, we're going to give you we got another 10 days. All right. Everything's good. Look what just happened yesterday. By the way, going back to this Massey, again, he's the only, this is very important. This guy was very popular in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That he lost this is showing you the true power behind this Trump administration. There was nobody more popular as a Republican that spoke out against war and other criminalities than Massey. Nobody.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that he lost this race is showing you really how powerful this Trump administration is.
And corrupt. I don't believe the vote
corrupt as
totals
can be in front of your eyes.
Yeah. I don't believe the election returns, quite frankly, because you look at what's happening. We're supposed to believe that he's ahead until the last minute, and then all of a sudden the polls flip. And when you look at the vote totals, as some people pointed out, Massey's vote totals are up by 19%, but the overall votes are up by 356%. So you've got all these, we're supposed to believe, according to some of these earlier polls, that for the under 55, Massey had anywhere from, I reported yesterday, I think it's something from 17-point lead to a 56-point lead. And then when you get to 55 and older, it suddenly starts to go the other way, but not by as large a margin. But and when we talked about that, and Lance pointed out, he said, well, it's where these people are getting their news. That generation is getting their news from Fox News. But I think that when you look at this, if it goes up by 356%, as Gard Goldsmith commented, he said, so we're supposed to believe that all these boomers who are getting their news from Fox never participated, but they all came out of their caves to vote for Ed Galerine. I don't buy that. I think all this stuff is corrupt.
Regardless of the why, it's all I'm saying to show the power.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. The power
Forgetting
to
about
rig
the why it happened, what's this or what's that.
Yeah.
It's the end result.
That's right. The power to rig the elections and to get away with it is the way I see it. Yeah.
And I'm saying the power of this.
Yeah.
Number two, they keep coming out about how low his popularity rating is. It was about 37%.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What's that? The clown over there, Harold Merz over there in Germany.
Oh yeah, Fred Merz.
Yeah. What is it? About 15, 16%?
Yeah. Yeah.
That little Catson Macron over there in France with a peck of the size of this pencil if he has one. What is his? Around 12, 13, 14%. Yeah. Little nobody Starmer over there in the UK.
Yeah.
Same thing. Under 20% popularity rating.
And they stay in. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, look how low their popularity ratings are. They're still in office. And you got Trump double that, more.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm telling you, as much as there's the we hate Trumps, this This guy knows how to keep this game going. And so when the midterm elections come up, it's 6 months away. Anything could happen between now and then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he will do everything he can to have all the power he can.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. They know how to rig the elections. I mean, we go back and we look at what happened in France, for example, Gerald. The Nationalist Party that was there, that was rising up. First, you saw it reflected in the European Union Parliament races, and they had a major victory there that got them worried about their national elections in France, and they did better in the first round of their elections, and then when they get to runoff, their popularity actually went up, but their vote totals went down. And the reason that happened was because Macron and his people did a deal with every other political party. They said, I tell you what, whenever we'll take a look at it, whichever one of us is ahead will stay in the race, but all the other political parties will drop out so that Le Pen's party can't get a majority. And that's what they did. They all coalesced around, they conspired together to make sure that one political party couldn't succeed. They're doing the same type of stuff in Germany with AfD. Yep. And so you see this over and over again. They know how to play the levers of power. They have rigged the game. And I think part of what you're seeing here, and it may be part of what they're trying to do, is the gerrymandering that is going on. They're doing that like they have never done it before. And I said, whenever I talk about the elections, I said, even before you count the votes, if they're able to pick who's going to be on the ballot, if they're able to shut down the debates, or if they have debates, pick who's going to be able to participate in them, keeping out any independents and third parties, if they control all of that stuff, and they do with the gerrymandering, then you don't really have a chance. It's like a jury trial anymore.
Again, it's what they spent $32 million to wipe out Massey.
Yeah.
And you don't have any money, you don't run.
Mm-hmm.
It's again, this is fascism. It's the merger of state and corporate powers.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we have all the articles in the Trends Journal, one after another, week after week. Matter of fact, there's one in here too.
That was when I was running for office, when I was working with the Libertarian Party. That would be always the first and usually is the last question, because we didn't have anyone. They'd say, how much money have you got? That'd be the first thing to report. If they talked to us, they'd say, how much money have you got? And it was like, I don't have any money. I got some ideas, but we're not interested. Yeah.
This is one of your articles in this week's Trends Journal. Fascism. Venture capital firm with close ties to Trump sees itself as election kingmaker.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Week after week, we've been putting this data in there. This isn't a republic. It's fascism. The merger of state and corporate powers. And again, it's serious, and the whole game is being rigged. Look what's going on. Before I went on the air, I looked at the oil prices. Brent crude is down over $4 a barrel. And you know why? Trump says he hopes to end conflict in Iran, quote, very quickly. Number one, it's not a conflict, it's a war.
Yeah.
So stop calling it a conflict.
Yeah.
Grow up. No, you got to call it a conflict because the president says it's not a war. Okay, I'll be good. It's not a war. All right. Number two, he says he's going to end it very quickly, right? He says, we're going to end this war very quickly. They want to make a deal so badly. They're tired of. This should have happened for 47 years. Somebody should have done something about it. And it's going to happen. And it's going to happen fast. And you're going to see oil prices plummet.
All right. And he is the master of deception. And as I said, the problem with liars is they don't have a good enough memory to get away with it. His memory is so bad he lies in the same sentence.
But he gets away with it.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
He gets away with it. Where is This is in part of your economic update. March 4th, Pete Hegseth told reporters that the Iranians are, quote, toast and they know it.
Yeah.
March 6th, Trump posted on Truth Social, Lie Social, quote, there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. March 11th, Trump said U.S. won the war, quote, you never like to say too early you won. We won. In the first hour, it was over. We got all right?
Yeah, yeah. They've got
March
no
21st.
Navy. They've got no Air Force. Forget about the fact they never had an Air Force or Navy. They've got none now, except they're still able to launch attacks, even if they say that they have obliterated their ability to do that. As soon as they say that, there's attacks launched. I mean, they just, and they never are held accountable for anything, as you point out. Whatever they say.
March 26th, Trump told the cabinet meeting Iran was, quote, defeated. They can't make a comeback. We won this war. This war has been won. All right, now remember, this is the same Trump that said, how long is this war going to work? Oh, 4 or 5 weeks. 4 or 5 weeks. And what, we're going into what, this 12th week? All right? Then you got, again, he keeps making these statements, and the facts show that before he made these statements a number of times, people shorted the futures markets in oil.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that Mona Charen talks about. She talks about that, and she talks about, well, let's take a look at the massive conflict of interest. You know, he buys a bunch of stock in NVIDIA just a few days before he says, okay, now you can sell all your chips to China.
Yeah.
And he does the same thing with company after company. He's got a big contract he's going to award to Palantir, so he buys a bunch of stock in Palantir and then announces it. It's the most obvious conflict of interest and corruption you could possibly have. And then when you look at this deal that he has set up for $2 billion that he's going to hand to himself, again, he is setting on both sides of the table in this deal. He brings a lawsuit, and then he tells his employee, Todd Blanche, settle and give me $2 billion instead of the $10 billion I'm asking for. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? I'm looking at it and it's like, what kind of a universe am I living in here? It's like the Twilight Zone. It really is.
Yeah. Eric Trump joins trip to China while company with links to him and Trump family seek deal with Chinese chip maker. That's an article in your Trends Journal this week. Company tied to Trump's son wants more funding for more mine projects. All right?
Yeah.
Trump Jr. tries to cash in on patriotic capitalism. One after another.
Yeah,
patriotic capitalism. Can you believe this?
It's called
fascism.
War.
So this is serious because
it is.
they're going to keep doing this. Again, Trump threatens Iran with big hit if deal isn't reached in coming days.
Yeah, we got another 3 years of this stuff. You know,
I know.
How much
That's what he
worse can
says.
get?
Then he reverses it. And the markets, he's doing everything he can to keep the equity markets up and oil prices down.
Wow.
End of story. They're playing the game since the war began on February 28th. And again, Israeli media is reporting that Israel expecting and planning to rejoin U.S. strikes on Iran. According to Israel's Channel 12, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened a meeting of his top military officials on Monday night to discuss the possibility, and he has canceled court testimony scheduled for Wednesday with no opposition from the prosecution.
I got a comment here from High Boost. He says, David Trump said this would be the most transparent administration ever. He wasn't lying. They are transparently corrupt in front of everybody's face like nobody else before. That's absolutely true, isn't it?
Perfectly said.
Yeah, it just, it's crazy. And I imagine what Mona Charen had written about the day before all this stuff about the slush fund hit, the 1776 slush fund, was the fact that he had traded 3,700 times last quarter. I mean, he's doing 40 trades a day, Gerald. And all these people on Wall Street are saying, what in the world is he doing? This is a guy who is tweeting around the clock and trading stocks around the clock. I mean, he's either got an army of clones that are out there doing this, or he's not doing much of anything else, is he? But it is truly amazing that he's turning the stuff this much. But when you look at the fact of what the stocks are that he's buying these stocks and then selling them after, doing a pump and dump. So I'm going to buy it. And, the old expression is you buy on rumor and then you sell on news, right? Well, he buys because he knows what the news is going to be the next day.
Yeah.
And then when the news comes out, he sells it. And I bet if you went back, somebody's probably going to do this and time this up with his announcements for Palantir and for NVIDIA and other companies like that. They'll probably go back and look at this in terms of a timeline and see that's exactly what this crook is doing. It disgusts me. Absolutely disgusting. Yeah. She points out.
It's serious.
Yeah, she points out. She said, if you go back to 2015, the U.S. wasn't clean, but it was relatively clean. There's an organization that does a rating for this. It's called Transparency International. Again, there's our transparency, and they rate all the countries based on whether or not they are clean or corrupt. In 2015, we got a score of 76, which isn't all that great. But it got us into 16th place in terms of the cleanest governments. We have now dropped to 64th.
Wow.
And falling fast. That's what
What's
Trump
the name of that group?
Transparency International.
Yeah, look it up.
And they go through and they rate countries based on corruption. It's kind of interesting. Jim Rogers, I remember a book that he wrote back in the 70s called International Biker, I think, or something like that. And he and his girlfriend went around the world on a bike. Of course, they had to take a boat over a lot of it, that was water, but they would just ride their motorcycle through different countries. And he said, I found out pretty quickly that if you look at the difference between the official exchange rate and the black market exchange rate, he said that kind of became a metric for the corruption in that country, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing. But here's another metric from Transparency International, and we are falling fast, dropping like a rock.
It's again, it's one president after another has done it. Look at Bill Clinton. Doing away with so many antitrust laws, Glass-Steagall Act, on and on.
They keep building on each other, and it is really kind of like the left-right
Here's another
march.
one.
Yeah.
Here's one that nobody talks about. Again, I can't stand any of them. To me, it's a crime syndicate.
Yep.
And there's this guy, the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner, who lied his way into office, Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he got into office, the Afghan troop surge.
Yeah.
Oh, the little guy that couldn't fight is a little nothing of a boy, like the rest of them that love war that never fight.
Mm-hmm.
I want that guy Gaddafi out of there. Oh, the guy quoted in the book, double down, I'm really good at killing people.
Yeah.
That lied his way into office as a peace president. You ready for this one? The woman mentioned 2015. Let's go to 2016. What did Obama do? Once upon a time, the energy companies, the gas and oil companies, were not allowed to export our oil in America. It's the oil of the American people. It's our country. Obama did away with it and allowed them to export.
Well, be careful when you say stuff like that, Gerald, because that got Mossadegh killed and thrown out in Iran. When he said, hey, that's Iranian oil, and you can't tell us what to do with it. That's when the CIA and Mossad threw him out and put in the Shah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was Mossadegh, Mohammed Mossadegh, 1953.
Yeah, so be careful about that.
Yep.
They could get you killed saying that.
I wrote about that in my book, Trend Tracking, far better than Megatrends, Time Magazine. The Iranian conflict broke out. That's when I became a political atheist. Because what you just said about Mossadegh, 99.999% of the people never heard of.
Yeah, yeah. Every time Trump and these Zionists talk about this stuff, it's always 47, 47, 47. I said they need to 86 this 47. So I don't want to hear any more about 47 years of Iran. Our history with Iran goes back 73 years. It goes back to the overthrow of their elected government, our imposition of a totalitarian king, and the training of his secret police to ferret out any opposition, torture, and kill them.
Yep. The Savak, the secret police that made the SS look good.
Yeah.
And they didn't release the full data until around 2013 of the telegrams that went from Winston Churchill, a fat little ugly stupid slob.
Drunk.
Who gave us World War I and World War II, that people look up to, just like they look up to the other clowns, and Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's grandson. Telegrams from Churchill to Roosevelt, how we have to overthrow Mossadegh to get the oil back. Basically, the oil does not belong to the Iranian people. It belongs to Anglo-Iranian Oil, better known today as BP, and Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil. I wrote about it in this book. So going back, no one's talking about how Obama, a little boy of nothing that's worth what, about $50, $60 million now?
That's right. Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
How he was the one that did away with the regulation that the oil and gas in the United States should not be sold outside the country. So could you imagine if that law was still in place? Oh, the average price of a gallon of gas now, what, $4.55? Now, average price.
Yeah.
What was it? What was it the day before Trump launched the Iran war? $2.91. All right?
Yep. That's right.
From March to May, from $2.91 to $4.55.
Yeah.
Diesel prices have gone up 60%.
Yeah. And airline fuel is even worse than the diesel, you know?
Yep.
And so you look at this, and they just did a week or two ago, they had an interview with the Chevron CEO, and they were talking about that very thing. And he said, well, you know, it's a global market. We're going to sell this everywhere. And that's one of the reasons why, when you look at what happened with the 73 oil embargo, as I've said many times, that was only against the United States. And we only got 15% of our oil supply of one country from the Arab countries that put the embargo on. But look at the economic disaster that came from that. And this is much bigger. What is happening in the Strait of Hormuz is much bigger than that. And go ahead.
This is a global crisis. This thing, again, it's in your Trends Journal, in your Trends on the Geopolitical Economic Front special report. Iran war disrupts oil supply.
Yes.
World's economy on borrowed time. That's what they're coming out with as massive oil crisis looms.
Yeah.
Iran war turns oil glut into a deficit. That's according to the International Energy Agency. Oil reserves dwindling at a record pace. All right? It's one after another. The damage that this thing has done. And by the way, one of the reasons why gold prices are going down, gone down. Here, it's in your, we'll find it here in our economic update to give you the exact wording. I don't know what I did with it here, but Turkey, here it is. Are you ready? Again, the primary reason for the sell-off are that nations' economies are in steep decline as a result of the Iran war, and nations such as Turkey and Russia are selling gold to help pay off their debt load and cover their losses.
Yeah.
It's reported that Russia sold 22 tons of gold through April, while Turkey sold 60 tons in March to shore up its fiscal needs.
Wow.
And we have a whole article about Turkey's, they're hiking, their central bank is hiking its interest rate to fight inflation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And India as well, because India's got currency issues with this, and part of it is tied to the price of oil that they have to import. So this is having massive effects in so many different areas. I mean, food, in terms of fertilizer and other things like that. This is building up for a famine. Even supplies that are going to be affected in terms of things like helium used in semiconductor manufacturing. So it's not just the oil, but the oil is so foundational. We all saw this back in the 1970s, didn't we? It is kind of a slow-moving juggernaut of destruction. It takes it a while to get going, and it has a lot of inertia in it. And once this thing gets going, you can't just stop it. You know, it's like the Titanic. You might see the iceberg over there, but you can't turn the ship fast enough because of the momentum that you've got going.
Perfectly illustrated. And again, we're going to have what we call dragflation. Mm-hmm. Because I mentioned what's going on in Turkey. I just mentioned Turkey, but other nations are raising their interest rates because of inflation. Mm-hmm. So that's going to bring down their economy. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to stop the inflation that's being caused by this oil crisis and continuing war.
Yes, that's right. I said
so
that,
they say stagflation. No, it's not going to be stagnant. It's going to be declining.
Yeah.
It's going to be dragflation.
And you've said this for quite some time, based on the fundamentals of quantitative easing and easy money and all the rest of the stuff that was baked in after the last economic crisis where they pumped and dumped everything. So the trends that are there, these fundamental issues, forget about what Trump is saying on any given day, giving people false hope about this or that, and then changing it the next day. Just like he changes the tariffs, he changes his war prognostications and so forth. But it's the fundamental trends in terms of what they have done and what they've been doing and how they're accelerating that people need to take a look at.
With all due respect, you said he's changing it day after day. That's not true. He's changing it minute after minute.
Right.
Yesterday he said, we're going to have a peace deal. Then he comes back for, you don't do it, we're going to attack you.
Yeah.
I mean, every day, minute by minute, year after month after month, day after day, week after week, he keeps changing it and changing it. No, this is serious. We are in the most serious times of our lifetime.
I agree. Yeah, we talk about the fourth turning and the timing and how about every 80 years we have this massive economic issue. People lose trust in their institutions. Usually the fourth turning begins, the fourth generation begins with people moving against these institutions. There's a financial crisis, usually followed by war. The previous one was the Great Depression and World War II. And I said, Trump really is kind of a one-man fourth turning. He has eroded everybody's trust in everything and doing the best he can to erode that. He is dragging us into war, famine, pestilence, depression, all of this stuff. He can do it all by himself. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
It's like he's got a button for it.
Here's your beginning of the economic update. You said about Trump? Mm-hmm. Again, as we have detailed and continue to detail by pure facts and indisputable data, the illegal Iran war launched on 28 February by just two politicians, President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has inflicted severe socioeconomic and geopolitical damage across the globe. All right, you got it?
Yeah.
Two guys.
That's right.
Two arrogant pieces of scum. Two guys have done this to the whole world.
Yep.
Two guys.
That's right. And they're kind of mirror images of each other. When you look at Netanyahu, look at all the corruption charges that he's fighting. Look at how he has tried to rig the political system and successfully doing it. Just like Donald Trump, he has rigged the political system of Israel. He's got a lot of opponents who've been coming after him for obvious corruption, and yet he keeps going and going and going. They're like the ever-ready bunny, both these guys.
This is serious. That two people, where the hell are the people of the world?
Yeah.
How the hell can you be so gutless to let two people do this to you.
Yep. I agree. It truly
And then
is.
talk about corruption. Hey, how about both of these guys' kids, right? Oh, Netanyahu's kids living the life of the high life down in Miami, while Trump's kids are making billions of dollars. Hey, they're not going to war.
Yeah. That's what Mona Charen points out. And he says, hey, I'm not putting the stuff in a blind trust. I let my family do this. And she said, that is the very definition of conflict of interest. It is not, you haven't escaped the conflict of interest because you got your family doing this. It is a crime family. And you look
The
at
people are going broke in front of everybody's eyes. The country's turning to crap. The roads are a joke.
Yep.
Boom, 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 all over the place.
Trump
And
doesn't
crap.
care.
A stupid old thing. The subway in New York, a night in Calcutta.
Yeah.
Oh, go to China. Boom, boom. More money for war.
And he doesn't care at
I'm
all.
going to cut the defense budget by $500 billion. I said that last February. Now I'm going to add another $500 billion, all right? I'm full of crap. I'm Trump. As we say, it's not bullshit. It's Trump shit. You got to get rid of the word bull out of it.
Yeah. And he doesn't even try to hide it anymore. He doesn't even try to hide his elitist contempt for Americans. I don't care about American finances. You know, the other thing that was interesting about that, besides the outrageous contempt, Gerald, was the fact that he's saying, well, you know, we've I don't know, if we go to get this nuclear dust, whatever that's supposed to be, we can do it. We don't have to do it. It'd basically be a PR thing, but he's going to kill people. He's going to hold everything up for a PR stunt. And at the same time, his whole quote unquote conflict that he wants to call it, his whole war that he started, is based on the fact that there was an imminent threat. If it's nothing but dust, and as he points out, we've got cameras on that and nobody's going near it, well, then how can you sell the idea that there was an imminent threat? I mean, it's all just contradictory lies. He's contradicted by the actions that are happening. He contradicts himself with his own words, as you point out several times the same day, you know? It's amazing.
Yeah. Trump said on Monday that he ended plans for a scheduled attack of Iran tomorrow because leaders of Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates asked him to do so. And then we write, before he spewed this out on Monday, Trump told Axios, quote, the clock is ticking for Iran, and warned that if they don't agree to his deal, quote, they're going to be hit much harder. What? Same day.
Yeah.
Earlier in the day, he told the New York Post, Iran knows, quote, what's going to be happening soon. And later in the day, he said at the White House, we're getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. Right? It was, as I said to you, no, not day after day, minute by minute, he keeps lying.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Truly is amazing. It is so sad to see this happening to our country. It's turning into a banana republic right before our eyes. And I guess we need to call the GOP, start calling them banana Republicans. Problem is, we're not going to be able to afford any bananas because he doesn't like getting stuff from foreign countries. It doesn't matter. We don't grow bananas here. I'm going to punish the people who sell you the bananas. Thank you so much for joining us, Gerald Celente. And again, the code NIGHT will get you 10% off of Trends Journal. It is an excellent publication. It is vital to be informed because there are things that you can do as an individual to try to mitigate some of this destruction. We can't escape it totally, and we can't keep these people accountable as we see yesterday. But there are some things that you can do if you know what is happening and you see some of the opportunities. You know why gold is moving the way that it is moving and that type of thing. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Gerald Celente, trendsjournal.com. Don't forget the code NIGHT. Thank you.
Thank you.
The common man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity, created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at thedavidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. thedavidknightshow.com.